My name's Thomas Johnson. I've been at Naval Postgraduate School for 16 years. I'm a research professor, and I've just recently published this book that's called Taliban Narratives, The Role and Power of Stories in the Afghanistan Conflict. My book actually addresses the war in Afghanistan from, I think, a fairly unique perspective. There's just an overabundance of wars in Afghanistan. We'll look at it from a purely military kinetic perspective. Mine's the only book that I know of that focuses on the war from an informational perspective. You know, how did we develop our narratives? What were the success or failures of our narratives? How did the Taliban develop their narratives? What were the delivery mechanisms? That's another important aspect. I mean, we try to use things like, you know, billboards and radio messages, and they used delivery mechanisms that were very in tune with their culture. They're basically wars of narrative. If you take a look at the Army Field Manual for Counterinsurgency, they'll suggest that between 80 and 90% of the battle is actually informational, and maybe 10% military actions or kinetics. So understanding the narrative that the different parties to the conflict are presenting to the people are extremely important, because the Taliban not only have stories, they also have that relate to the people and their collective memory. For example, you know, we've been invaded by all the great powers of the world, be they the British, be they the Soviets, be the United States, and in every instance we've defeated them. And that the Americans and their apostate supporters, their puppets in Kabul, are basically here to destroy our way of life and to replace Islam with Christianity. And they go on with these types of tropes. Now, we know they're not true, but they resonate to the rural Afghan people. Later on, we basically gave up with stories because we became too lazy. We became too lazy to try to uncover the multi-layered aspect of Afghan society and culture and to develop stories and narratives that would make sense to the Afghan people. So my position is basically, we've lost the war of the narrative. And losing the war of the narrative, we basically put ourselves in a very, very tough position. Because once you lose the war of the story, if you will, I believe you lose the war in these types of conflicts.